Sorry about that. I didn't even realize that the desktop audio was muted. Must have been very strange just sitting here in silence. I'm going to do a little bit of audio testing before we start today, because I did set a new gate on my microphone. So once I get the levels set here, it's going to turn down the music a little bit and try to get some good levels between the two. But let me know how my voice sounds. Does it sound any different than usual? Does it sound weird? For the most part, it should be normal. But there should be less air conditioner noise in between when I talk now. Very clear? Love to hear it. Fantastico. I also remembered at last to put up the background painting for our loading screen here, which in itself has become a strange abstraction because I went to a place, so I saw the tree in person, and then I painted the tree, so that's another level down. No, wait, I took a photo of the tree, and then I painted from that photo, and then I digitized the photo, or I digitized the photo of the painting, and finally I drew my little animated bear painting and a little tiny digital version of that original painting. A very strange thing. It's like the inception of trees, I guess. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Welcome. Welcome to Saturday. Starting slightly early today, as has been my desire lately to just stream all the time. I'm very excited to work on today's picture. I don't know where it's going to go or how it's going to be, but I'm very excited. Hello, F. Pratty, Rohan, Chaotic, Redbird. Hello, Rod. I am an ogre, but not for that reason. Oh, it is so hot here today. Oh, folks, it is just so very hot. And on top of being hot, it is also humid. Everyone who lives in humid areas, you know what's up. It's bad. So I'm in here. I've got my AC full blast. So thankfully I'm feeling chill and refreshed. I have no humidity, at least within this one room. The second I step out the door, and y'all know what I'm talking about if you have just an air-conditioned room and then the rest of like the house or apartment or whatever is not air-conditioned. When I walk out the door, it feels like I'm walking into like a wall of hot air. Very intense. And it always takes just long enough in between me leaving the room that I forget. And then I slam into it. I'm like, whoa. It is, in fact, very hot out here. A lot to deal with. In terms of the spectrum of things that are not a big deal at all. Suddenly be swimming exactly. Some would say. So we're gonna get cooking here in just like half a second. I'm gonna switch it on over to the art cam. Do that right now, as a matter of fact. Oh, it feels so nice to be back at the beginning of our goals. For a while there, we were just slam jamming on all of those goals. Now we're back. It feels fresh. It's the new month. Everything is clean slate. Refreshed. Twitch is a very bonkers place. I just checked the emotes page. And we are already on our way, of course, to the next emote unlock. I don't know how many they do. Is it just infinite? Did they just keep giving you emotes every 50 sub points that you get? Because it said in another 50 sub points, we're going to get another emote. So I set the sub goal for the next giveaway at 50 again. Feels like they just keep giving and giving. I still need to make 2 new emotes. In addition to the ones that we currently have, I did add the uwu emote, so if you want to test out the uwu now, subscribers, go ahead and do that for all of your humble request purposes. But I still need to make 2 more, and there was an article that just came out that said that Twitch partners very soon, within the next few weeks, are going to be getting 5 animated emote slots, which is bananas. I don't even know. Well, I do know. I've got some good ideas for a couple of them, but we're going to have to brainstorm as a family what we want to do for the rest of the animated emotes. Going to be very silly. And one definitely will include the dude in some form or fashion. So I've got this very wiry looking sketch here that I've just been sort of poking away at for the last, 5 or 6 minutes. And I very helpfully labeled for myself trees and sky, because honestly, it's kind of hard to tell. It's a bit of a jumble. But I'm pointing to the canvas as if you can see where I'm pointing. But I do have a really nice, clear reference photo that I had taken when I was on my nice walk doing plein air the other day. And so from that, I can tell where all my values are supposed to be. But I went in with a sketch instead of a value study to start. So it's a little discombobulating to look away from and then look back to. I just have a bunch of lines. I've tried my best to sort of add in these darker areas here. These are very important in terms of the overall value composition, creating that nice 3-dimensional space in the tree. There's a tree, by the way. I know it's not easy to tell. But I'm going to start laying in some colors here very soon, and you'll be able to see things sort of emerge, make a bit more sense. So I'm in Clip Studio today. I was going to do Photoshop, but Photoshop now flatly refuses to open. It just opens up and then crashes immediately. So I don't know if they need a version update or if it just doesn't work on my computer, but honestly, I'm fine with it because I've got Clip Studio and it seems to be working just fine. So I'm going to grab some sky color here. Big and bright and blue. Let me go ridiculously blue on this. I want it to feel blazingly blue. And make this brush humongous. My soft oil pastel brush. Big sized. Maximum opacity. I just want to kind of flood fill the top of this with that sky color. I need it to be very deep. I'm going to get a bit of horizon down here. I'll turn down the opacity and then just sort of work in. Now, I've forgotten some of the sort of core fundamentals here in Clip Studio. Yes, here we go. Yes. Okay. Just like riding a bike, it's not too hard to get back into. So I'm just going to dip into a little bit of horizon lightening. Bit of that. For the most part, we'll keep it relatively dark. But I want a little bit of variance in the sky just for interest, so it's not just a flat. Just a flat. Hey, Triforce, how's it going? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, people need to get initiated to the dude. Quite a presence. I'm gonna block in some of these background trees. I need to really set the scene for this picture before I can go too hardcore on making the foreground tree. I'll reduce the brush size a bit. I'll primarily be working on a couple of layers. There's a lot that I want to change from the initial sort of composition of the photograph. You can only do so much when you're out in nature. You know, I can't manipulate every aspect of it, but there's a lot that I see in this that potentially could amp it up in terms of interest. So I'm just going to tweak those things as I go. I'm going to keep the minimum value relatively low, but not all the way down, so I can kind of mimic a real brush. Relatively big. And I want to put dots of not necessarily the same color across all of these tree forms in the background. Because the tree is a wild thing. And it gets hit by a lot of light on many tiny facets. And because of that, it has a lot of colors bouncing hither and yon. So I don't want to just lay it on all with one thing. Hey, Triforce, thank you for 5 months. Thank you, thank you. So it's going to be going back and forth, bouncing between blue and yellows. Oh, hey, Lion. We haven't been going for too long. I just decided to jump the gun a little bit, like I have been these past few streams. There's something about the summertime that really energizes me artistically. I constantly feel the need to create and try new things in the summertime, assuming that I have proper air conditioning, because if I don't, I tend to get pretty lethargic. But I think this summer is going to be pretty bonzer for streaming. I feel like I'm going to be doing a lot of streaming. Because I just feel it, you know? I just realized that I didn't have the opacity up while doing these brush strokes, so I'm going to have to put in some real color here. Sometimes I go to adjust the brush size and I accidentally do opacity instead. But I want there to be a richness in the color. At the same time, these are background trees, so I don't want them to steal the show from the foreground ones. I don't want to get too caught up in these background trees, but I really need to establish pretty heavily a lot of the stuff that is in the background of this tree, because the tree itself has a lot of very bright values. Got the brightest and the darkest values. (46°C). That's dangerous. That's extremely dangerous. I overheat very easily. As soon as it gets above like 21, I'm out. I gotta find some shade or shelter. I guess in some places the temperature gets really high, but the humidity's relatively low. Remember when I was out in California, they were getting like 100-degree Fahrenheit days, but there was almost no humidity, so it actually didn't feel too bad. It still felt very bad, but like you could survive it. But spots where you get high humidity, I cannot. And it gets so muggy here. I visited LA a couple of times. Both times I did, it was, well, actually the first time was November, so it wasn't like bonkers, but the second time I went was in August, and it was hot. Hot, hot, hot in the summertime. That first trip was so wild because I went to Vegas before I went to LA, and I had never been to or seen a desert before, and it was a real trip. I mean, I know Vegas is different than being in the desert, but it's surrounded by desert. So I got to see a lot of landforms that I had never seen before in person. I just remembered that since I'm in clip, I can record a time lapse, so I just started the time lapse now. We've got a long, long way to go on this painting, so sufficient. Okay, that should be sufficient to get the base of the tree done. So I'm just going to fill in the area behind where the tree is with some dark color, so I have a good base to work off of when I do the tree itself. Now I'm going to pop up a new layer for the tree. And we'll block this one in gradually. I'm going to start dark and then, well, maybe I'll start medium dark and then move up and down from there to sort of round out the shape of the tree, which you've seen me do before. Make sure that my brush size is good and the opacity is at 100%. And I'll turn off color mixing for this initial stage here. So what I'm essentially doing is just flatting in where the tree is, and then after that it'll be modeling we're gonna have a lot of fun putting the various lights that are shining through the leaves and things. Something that I always love to do, because it's so complicated, but at the same time it's very, I don't know, it's fun to think about the direction of the light and the scattering of the light, how things diffuse through that canopy. And it helps that it just looks so darn pretty. It was an absolute pleasure to go out and take these reference images down at the marsh and have a chance to actually sit down and paint while I was out there too, which was really nice. Here to zoom out so I can get my proportions correct. And I've also got a sort of dead limb tree down here. I want to block that in as well. I am using Clip Studio Paint. A wonderful little program. This one here is based off a photograph that I took just a couple of days ago while I was walking out in the marsh, and I saw this huge tree that looked mostly dead. There's a lot of this kind of thing in the marshland where there's sort of dead trees, but then other trees take them over and grow around them. So there was a ton of leaves and foliage, and it looked really interesting. And also it was extremely tall, so I kind of craned back and took a photograph more or less straight up. Which actually reminds me, I should put the references in our reference folder. Exclamation Discord in chat if you'd like to join the Discord. I'm going to put the reference right on in there. Let's see. A very tall photograph. There it is. All right, I'm adding this to the Art References tab on the Discord. So y'all can check it out and see how I sort of switch it up from the reference and or add to it. Which is definitely the fun of going out there and taking references, as you can tweak and change and, you know, adjust the ideas to get it right to where your imagination wants it to be. I've got a bunch of branch offshoots and things like that, but I don't really need to focus too hard on all of those side branches currently. Just sort of these main truncular guys at first. And then I can change the settings back, be a little bit more opaque and a little bit bigger as well. We can lock those pixels down, which I always forget is a slightly different icon in Clip Studio than it is in Photoshop. Go in here with a lighter medium bark color. And I'm also going to change the minimum value of the brush just a bit so that it's a little bit more wide. Didn't have any opacity there because I turned off my color mixing. There we go. How are we looking here? I always turn up the amount of paint way too high when I do this. There we go, that's way better. So I want to paint in where the light areas are on these tree trunk branches and so forth here. So we're sort of cutting around where the shadows live. A bunch of spots down here. You can see I didn't paint on this layer. I can turn off the locked pixels for those parts and just paint down over. As I get into the finer details, I turn the brush tip size back down to small. I can start getting these tiny, tiny little dots kind of pecked out. I can pull dark into light and light into dark when I do this kind of brush painting here in Clip, which is really nice. Turn that back on now, actually, so I can work on the fine edges of this guy up here. Okay, now we're going to go the next level up in terms of our light value. Bring in a little bit more paint. And I'm going to turn the tip size down all the way to its smallest. can start modeling a little bit more of that bark texture when we do it in here. And it won't be long after I finish establishing a lot of these shapes and values on the bark that I'll be moving past my sketch. So I'll turn my sketch layer down and go a little bit more just into what I've got here. I also want to remember where all of the shadows are. So I'm keeping those in mind as I go through here and just sort of re-blocking as I go. Wherever I see the shadows falling in the reference that looks impactful or cool, I go in and kind of dot those back into the piece. Again, I don't have to be super exact. It's just whatever feels like it looks right or interesting. Because I'm going to be putting a lot of foliage and stuff over top of most of this. So these things will change quite a bit. Here we go. Hello, hello, welcome in. So glad you could make it. Hey, Evie, how's it going? Nah, we haven't been going for too long. You're just in time. Gonna be kind of whiling away at this one today. There's also quite a bit of reflected light in this picture. All those trees in the background, they have those bright leaves. The leaves are waxy and they reflect green light. Also, the light from the ground is bouncing up from the sky. So it's creating a bit of underlighting in the shadows of the tree. I'm adding in some of that green color back into the shadows now. I can already tell there's going to be a lot of little sort of bits and bobs on this tree. It's very gnarly. It's very old tree. Seen a lot of stuff come and go. And then some nice big shadows down here. That locked layer so we can start finally pushing up these shadows. Adding in some more little dots of light because there's going to be a lot of foliage in front of this part of the tree. It's kind of, you know, if I'm to draw it very roughly with a big brush, it would be like all of this in front of the tree here is going to be foliage. And so there's going to be little dots where the foliage is kind of separated and there's light shining through onto the tree. Okay, so we've got the background trees more or less blocked in. We've got the tree trunk itself and all the major components. So now I will, I think, start working on that foliage in front of the tree. So for the foliage in front of the tree, maybe I should do the foliage in back of the tree first. Let me move this layer down. Boop. Because I would like to get that really dark. I put these sort of dark patches in the sketch originally because I was really focused on how cool those look in the reference image. Oh no, the tree is definitely not in danger of falling at all, 100%. The marsh is maintained very well. There's always like surveying and groundskeeping and all those things to make sure that the trail is really, really safe, because it's a super popular spot for people to hike and walk around, which is really nice. It's the same thing for all the sort of trails and like the walking and hiking trails that go across Nova Scotia. They're all really well maintained, which is super nice. They're very pleasant to walk on. So, I'm super excited about this dark patch back here. And that's always how it goes with me, honestly. It's always when I see an image, there's one thing that I focus on really, really hard. And I say, this is what jumps out at me. This is the thing that catches my eye. And in this case, it is these dark patches back here. They're so dark, set against what you'll see eventually are very, very bright leaves. Beautiful. Full foliage. So I'm going to put all those dark values back here. It's one of the great things you can do with digital and a lot of like oil and some acrylic stuff. Anything that goes on opaque. You can even do it with gouache, but it takes a lot of gouache. Is to put down these big blocks of dark color that you can then put light over top of later on. But I'm going to go between this really dark color and this deep green. It's like forest green. I've got a bit of color mixing on. As you can see here, it's pulling from the sky color, which is really nice. I'm going to go back down to that dark color, and then because I've got the color mixing on, it's going to act like paint, so I'm pulling from one color into another. Creates a lovely effect. Now, this isn't how I'm going to be doing all the foliage on this layer, just the dark sort of behind the tree foliage. And then the rest I'll be doing on top of the tree with much lighter colors, but occasionally dark, mixing back and forth between the two, and in get a nice sort of three-dimensional foliage. And once I've got these back leaves established, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the sketch layer and then work a little bit more just off of the reference and intuition. As I mostly needed to block in where this foliage is going to go. It's the most important thing because a lot of the composition lies on the foliage. So a lot of the stuff on this side is going to be more light colors, so I'm just sort of leaving it alone in this portion. Then down over here, chunk, 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 a lot of dark color. And this is where you start to see the composition come together. It's going to look so nice when I get those light leaves on top of everything else. Okay, now down here we've also got dark color. So we need the bright color of the background trees to splash in between these dark blocks, the silhouette created by all of this dark foliage down here. Okay, so now I'm going to make a new layer on top of the tree, and we're going to start crunching on in. They're relatively big. Okay, off goes the sketch layer, and now we're just left with the painting, which is very exciting. Always a great point to step away. I'm going to turn off color mixing for just a second here so I can put some just opaque strokes. Make the brush a little bit bigger and then just go in with some of these shapes. These are kind of like the ultimate highlight areas. And then from these, I'll be blending down into like the spaces below, make them a little bit smoother. The thing I really like about doing a painting like this background first is that the actual intention of the illustration has not yet been revealed. So it's kind of a fun thing to watch live because I'm not actually putting any characters or anything over this until pretty close to the end. Until then, it's just kind of a raw background study, but I do intend on putting some stuff on this picture. I've got plans. It's always so nice putting the bright high-lit leaf colors on. So bright and sunny and sunshiny. It's very true. As just a tree painting, this would be a very lovely one. Ever since I saw that tree the other day, I was like, I'm definitely painting this. But I think it'll be extra fun with a little bit of additional flair. One thing I always really loved about, I don't know if there's any other, I bet there is, some like video game old heads out there in the audience. A thing I always loved about old video game art, concept art, especially the Legend of Zelda stuff, is if you take Link out of those illustrations, the backgrounds are still beautiful paintings. They're just like gouache paintings, acrylic, probably some poster color as well. Like there's just a lot of really nice landscapes or like a dungeon background, usually like Link exploring those areas. It's a thing that I really like to capture whenever I do fan art like this, as it's just a very pleasant painting on its own, and then it also just has Link walking around. No, we are not listening to Zelda remixes. Just a coincidence, I think. Got that old chill hop. Would that we lived in a world where I wouldn't get DCMA'd into oblivion if I put on some nice video game music. I'm going back into some areas where I put in the highlight colors. I put in those bright leaves. And then I'm just adding in sort of a mixing layer underneath to give the tree that dimension. And it was then that he remembered he hasn't saved this file yet. I've rectified it. I have saved the file. forgot to do was set my stretch timer. We're going to go ahead and take a stretch, and I'm going to set a new one. Boom. All right, stretch. Probably also crop in, because for the most part I'm just working really small on this one. I'm going to crop in the window. That it's not quite as zoomed out. It's a little tricky on a vertical image like this. It's such a strange thing. I used to be such a zoom in kind of guy when I painted digitally, but ever since learning traditional, I tend to just stay zoomed out all the time. Until I really need to zoom in, like when I'm drawing a character or something. That fear of getting lost in the sauce. Okay, so now I've got most of the main foliage done on the top of the tree. So now I can do the foliage that lives here in front of the tree. I'll pop a new layer for that, and down here. Let's start dark again. And then we'll layer on top as we go. Big brush. This is very roughly blocking in these shapes in here. Where there's light and dark. Okay, so I'm going to take this eraser to go in and finesse some of the foreground elements here. Now I can hop between the layers and kind of focus out just some of the dynamics that we want to change, enhance. For example, over here, this area, I want the area back here to be darker than the area in front. Right now they're very similar in terms of value. So I'm just going to grab some dark foliage color. We're just going to move some of that in. Space. And I can grab some of that, excuse me, I can grab some of that light color. I'm a bit stronger with it. Enhance some of these shapes in the back. One thing we're definitely going to do is enhance the shadows on the tree down here, because we have all these, foliage sections in front. It's going to be casting a pretty dark shadow on such a bright sunny day. Let's go down underneath, dropping those shadows in. And to enhance the contrast, we're going to be just adding in the really, really bright sunshine color from above here in the tree. We're just going to be adding that in down here wherever the sun is shining through those leaves. Again, we should have a bit of that reflected light from the greens. Hey, Meds. I love to hear it. Time for a stretch break. Set and stretch. I got a few layers going here. It's mostly, let's see. So I got the background layer for the sky and the distant trees. And then I added a layer on top of that for the clouds. Oh, I can merge that down now. You put it in a different spot in this program, and I always miss it. Merge to the layer below. And then I have the background foliage. And then the tree trunk. Foreground foliage. And then my sort of paint over layer. This is the finishing touches kind of layer. Almost everything that I paint from this point out, unless it needs to go somewhere really specific that I already have established below, it's going on that final paint over layer. Kind of where I'm adding in and subtracting and pushing things around. So now, as I go up the tree, I'm adding harsher shadows because they're closer to where you'd be looking up at the sun. So they're more directly lit by that source of light. The the little program that records the time lapse inside of Clip Studio is really starting to struggle. Every time that I save, it's like, "Oh, are you sure? We're dying." But it's okay, we're almost there. Program just needs to hold on a little longer. Okay, now we zoom in, finally. Here's what it looks like up close. So now we're gonna add our characters to it. Means I'm gonna crush down all these layers into one single paint layer, just to simplify things for me. I'll just be continuing to do paint overs on the background layer anyway. I'm gonna start a new layer. I'm gonna lower the opacity of the background. I'll select a good drawing size here. Ooh, it's stretch time again. Time to get up and have a little stretch. kind of funny because the character I'm drawing in is doing kind of a stretch too. Let's see how he looks with the shield on the back. Change my mind on this one, though. It's pretty cute, but I lose a little bit of the angle. Yeah, I probably left the sword and shield on the ground. And then some moblins find it and we have a whole other painting to make. Now, do I have a good link reference on my computer? I should do. Ooh, I do. I'm gonna go Link to the Past style on this. And a color ref from my fave. I like the dynamism of the Link to the Past one because it's got the brown sleeves. I think it was like that in the NES as well. The brown sleeves and the green tunic is a good combo. Very classic rangery. Pink hair? Undecided. I mean, if I go off the painting from the instruction booklet, then probably the golden blonde, but the pink is a good look. Undeniable. You know the reason for the pink hair Link in Link to the Past? It was because his Dark World sprite was a pink monster. But they had to fit all of the color information into the single sprite. So they made it pink and they're like, it's close enough to brown. No one's gonna care. And no one did, as far as I know. But in the Link to the Past one, I kind of mix and match when it comes to the Link that I draw, which is wildly inconsistent in itself, but the one that I draw always has the power gloves on, and that's much more of like a thing you'd find in like Ocarina of Time illustration. The original ones tended to have Link with just nude hands. I guess he gets a bracelet in the older games. He gets the power bracelet. Scandalous nude hands. But I'm basically just going to use the boot colors because they work really well. But for as many times as I've drawn Link over the last 100 million years, I feel like I draw him differently every single time. Which is part of the fun of, you know, Link as a character. I love the specificity of this, the shading that they do on the hair in the manual, because it's like this gold color. It's not blonde, it's as if his hair's actually made of gold, because they shade it with a bold orange. And that's really interesting because they tend to shade the Triforce the exact same way. And I don't know if it's intentional or just a random decision by a colorist somewhere, but it's kind of fun. So I'm trying to keep in mind as I color this, the direction the light is coming from, which is this way. Oh, you can't see screen for you. Yeah, so it's this way. So Link's face should be in shadow for this. But of course I can adjust the whole thing once I put the background back in. And Redbird is in luck because the color that goes strongest against green, which is primarily what we have in this picture, is red. Our little bird friend is going to be red in this. I don't know how to do... an adjustment layer in this program. Oh well, I'll do it the old-fashioned way. Link is not missing a leg. It's wrapped around the other side of the tree. And only after adding the background back in can we put that little kicker on there. It does look pretty funny now, though. So now on this layer, go in, multiply middle opacity, nice dark blue, switch back to soft oil pastel, going off, but I'm gonna finish these shadows before I do that. It's really fun to set the scale of a piece by adding in characters like this. As you can see, they're very tiny compared to the full painting. Okay, now some of the middle shadows here wouldn't actually be there because the leg is only like here, and then it lifts up. There's like a little gap where there's light coming down through. Save that. I'm gonna add some fun details now. Maybe like sweat drops. Like, oh no. The bird just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Or I know exactly what I'm doing. Being bad. And now we can go back up to these leaves and then some additional leaf work. Yeah, it's a red bird, not the red bird. That's fine by me, Redbird. Imagine if this was the Minish Cap. They would be none too happy with this predicament. Now, of course, I could spend the next 450 million years just rendering out every single leaf on the tree. That's not what I'm going to do. I just wanted a few nice, tight details around the hero characters here. Because, you know, that's the sort of spot a lot of people are going to be looking at really close. It's good to have that more or less clean. But the rest I can do a little bit of blurring on, which is nice. Bit of that noise. When you actually look at the entire piece, it's quite a bit further back from there. I think it was definitely the right call with the golden hair, much as I like the pink, because that gold sets off really nice against the bark color and the leaf color in back. Would like to do a pink hair Link soon, though. I'll do that for my next one. I'd like to do the monster Link. I don't think I've ever drawn the Dark World Link before, the transformed Link. Yeah, the nice pink bunny. They make such a big deal of it in the game, and then you're only the pink bunny for like a couple of minutes until you find... What is it, the pearl? I think the pearl is what stops you from transforming. Exactly, we gotta get a Link Between Worlds where you turn into the bunny Link. They only ever want to do that when the Link that transforms is like a cool wolf or something. But they should do it for a cute bunny. Justice for Bunny Link. That reminds me, E3 is coming up. I'll be doing some announcements soon. I wonder if Nintendo's going to talk about Breath of the Wild 2. Hi, Itachi. Thank you. Do you think they're going to announce that new Switch? Do you really think? Oh, I know how that goes, Itachi. I'm glad you're feeling better, though. We continue to shore up the area here around our characters. I don't have... I mean, presumably, if I try opening Photoshop again, it's going to crash again, so... I can't really do my normal post-processing, which is a bit of a shame. I can still do my layers that I usually do, though. My color correct layers. Have I drawn Ganondorf? I've definitely drawn Ganondorf before. I forget which forms. I've definitely drawn the Wind Waker Ganondorf 100%. Way back in the day, back in the DeviantArt days. Have I drawn Ganon on stream? I mean, I wouldn't put it past me. Feels like a thing I would have done. A 100 million years ago, I did a print through Fangamer of a whole bunch of different battles with Ganon. Which I don't believe is any longer available. I've definitely drawn Ocarina of Time Ganondorf because I did it specifically for Games Done Quick. I remember that. When I was doing all of those, like, speed paintings. And I'm adding some actual bark detail here just to kind of break some stuff up and help sell the idea of a three-dimensional plane set up around these trees. Something so relaxing about just kicking back and painting a bunch of little leaves, you know? Like, I don't really need to add this much detail, but I just find it so meditative. Thanks for all the follows today, y'all. We're already cracking along to the June follower goal, which is very exciting. I'm getting to that magical point in the stream where I start thinking about supper. Just around the bend. I don't even know what I'm gonna have today. Maybe I'll make a fancy sandwich. Okay, every time that Oh, Lion, thank you so much for gifting all those subs. 5 subs for the community. Enjoy those bears, everybody. We added a very important emote recently. It's pretty vital, and you're going to want to use it at your earliest convenience. And there'll be some new additional ones on the way soon. But welcome! As a reminder, !Discord in the chat if you want to join the Discord. If you link your Twitch to your Discord account, you can use all the bear emotes right there in Discord, which is super fun. Okay, let's see if I can do the same layer magic here in Clip as I can in Photoshop. It's just gonna be high saturation blue. Reduce the opacity and change it to different. And put that relatively low. Just enough to keep the colors in harmony. And then I'm gonna add another one. Fill that in and then make that a saturation layer. And I like to do saturation on a layer just because it's easier to control without actually changing the way that the layers look. Very handy. And just go in and adjust it with a layer. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, I never really looked into how to do, even though I've been shown a few times, how to do chromatic aberration. So I'll leave that out for today. I'm gonna see if I can do my usual blur thing. Now, I have never done this in Clip before. I'm really hoping the keyboard shortcuts are the same. They are not. Does anyone know how to copy all layers in Clip? I mean, I can just merge them all and then copy and then unmerge them. I'll just do that for the sake of doing that. Select all and then drag to a new layer? Really? Oh, I copied all the layers. Oh no. It's okay. I've got a copied flat here. Or do I? What the heck did I copy? Oh boy. Oh no, wait, I got it. I think. I hope. Yes, okay, I do have a flat. I've got a copied version of the flat layer. So now I can manipulate this one without worrying about damaging anything underneath. I'm gonna, first of all, close all of my reference images that I pulled in, because I don't I don't need those anymore. And now the bloop doodly doop. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah, blur. I've got blur, I've got blend. I'm gonna try just doing blur. I like to blur out some of the corners, anything that's not part of the focus. Yes, yes. See you on Monday, Redbird. Have a good night. I'm just gonna blur out. Ooh, this blur is very strong. Ah, there we go. I'm gonna turn off pressure sensitivity. Whoa, this blur is weird. Oh no. This is not like Photoshop's blur at all. What is this? Why would you want this? It probably does something cool if you understand how to use it. It's like blurs, but it makes it all muddy. Oh, there we go. This is more similar to what I'm used to. I had to, so there's, to explain what I'm doing. In the blur tool in Clip, they have separate options. They have an option called intensity of blur, and one is called automatic, and the other is fixed value. So I had to switch it to fixed value away from automatic. On automatic, it just like made everything kind of muddy. I'm just adding a bit of depth of field to the background. Just blurring in the back there. Let me see if I actually like how this looks at all. It's not quite the way that I'm used to. That's okay. I'm just gonna save it au naturel here. So as a reminder, this is what we started with today. This is the original sketch that I made right before the stream. Just trying to figure out what the composition was going to be like. And then eventually, through the power of magic, I got to this, which I think is pretty good. I'm just going to save this out to put online. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today, everybody. I really appreciate it. I'll be back on Monday. Same Matt time, same Matt channel. Thank you again, everyone who followed. Thank you to all the people who subbed and gift subs. I will see you again real soon. Take it easy. Farewell.